Hello everyone. So today I want to speak about test with Streemlined. So I've built this small pipeline. Now I want to test this without connecting with the real data from Kafka. So I just want to test the overall behavior of my application. So I just hit the test button and now I'm in test mode of Streemlined. So as you can see, all the inputs and outputs have been stubbed. So it's not consuming data from the orders topic or the customers topic. But you should notice that there are some buttons here and there. And now I can produce a message at any place inside the pipeline, and the pipeline will execute from there. So first I'm going to produce a customer. And here I have a small pop-up that already shape with the same message that it's supposed to send. So I'm just going to change the ID. I will say customer 1. And I push a message. And as you can see, nothing much happens except that the cache count was increased. So now probably I can push an order. And if I put the same customer ID, guess what? The message will go up there, go into the transform, into the branch, and it went down. So that's interesting, except you had to follow me and follow the small digits to understand what happened. So let's look at the little I and visualize everything that I've just told you is now available as a history. And you can see the two things I've done, which is first, I produced customer, and you can see that it was this message with ID customer 1, and we can see the action. So the lookup said reference stored, it stored the customer under this key. And then a few seconds later, in the other Kafka consumer, I produced an order which had the same customer ID, and we can see the whole history of what happened. Nothing happened. No message was stored in database. No message was consumed from Kafka. And by doing that, you can test any place in your pipeline and validate a behavior. So for example, I want to test the up condition, the condition 1. So I can just go here and produce a message. And I know that I should have a ship to country US to go into the orders US database. So I'm going to send a message. And as we can see, so for the second operation that happened during this test phase, this is the message that the branch node received. It did a match, and it said that it found a match into condition 1, and then it sent the message out into the JDBC sync. And that's it. So that's great. It means you can test anything. So for example, I can put more customers, test conditions where it doesn't match. So for example, I will do it here with a no match. And as you can see, it went down. So that's cool. Now I'm a bit more confident about my pipeline. So maybe I want to test a little bit more. For example, the HTTP sync connector that I've configured here, I want to enable it in test mode. So guess what? You can just disable the stub mode per connector. So I'm going to stick to just doing it for the HTTP sync connector and run again the test mode. So now it's not yellowish anymore. We don't have the stubbed label at the top. So let's just produce a message that will go into the reject port. So it's very easy. We just produce an order that does not match anything. So right now the cache is empty. So I just produce anything really. I will just give it an ID, should not or should reject, and send, and we can see it went there. So the URL that I've sent the message to is a webhook. So now I'm going to switch to the webhook page, and the message I just sent is here, should reject, and we can see that the HTTP sync connector was properly executed in test mode. Back to Streemlined. So maybe now what I want to do is let's say I don't care about this guy, but I want to load the cache. You know, loading the cache could be quite interesting. So let's disable the stub so that the cache will be activated. And if we have orders US, let's just store them in database and run. So now what it's going to do is load everything from the customer's topic into the cache. So we can see it's going to take a few seconds. So see, it's done. I'll just take one. So I can just look into the message here. I'm looking for a US one. This is a US customer. I'm going to take the customer ID and produce a message in the orders with this customer ID. And what I'm expecting from now on is that the order will flow through the pipeline and go into the database. Let's check the database just quickly to confirm right now that there are no records in the database. So we can see the orders US table, no data. Back to the pipeline. I'm sending a message. So the message went there and there and there, and finally into the orders US. And if I refresh, we can see the order properly stored in database in test mode. So it's very strange. It's a mix of functional test, topology test, and also a little bit of integration test. And now I'm confident enough that this application might be running well in production, or let's say at least in dev. So I can just run the application. So it's going to load the cache. And once the cache is loaded, it's going to open the orders and we'll see the data flowing. And we are seeing the data flowing. So as we can see, we have so much more non-US orders, and things are going into database, either in the orders US or in the orders table. I don't have any inconsistencies, so nothing is going into the reject port, and my application is now running. So that's cool. What else can we do from there? It's quite interesting because now we have a pipeline which is, it's a YAML representation. But test, ultimately it's like pushing data and then doing some assertions. Maybe I can automate some of that. And that's exactly what I'm building right now, which is you can create a test scenario which describes the send operation that you want to do at every stages. So you can do send a customer and send an order. And then you can do some assertions on whether a message went through this node or this other node, or whether the data at this point, the last message contains this data or this other data. And that's something you can then automate with a CLI in a GitOps and so on. And that's all for today. So if you have any question, come talk to me on LinkedIn. Thank you. Bye-bye.